Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
My friends and I always tune into the Todd Levitt Law Show. Todd is entertaining, informative, and always delivers the goods.
Todd might not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And all you got to do is listen.
Hold on, Todd. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Marijuana Law Podcast. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting from the Black Diamond Group mothership in the middle of the mitten in a beautiful green nutrient field with my good friend Craig Russell, the Muscle. How you doing, Craig? I left the poem out this time. Did you notice that?
I'm glad for that. And so is everyone else. Trust
me.
The
listeners love when I read off my favorite poem to my friend Craig Russell.
Sure they do.
Water's wet, the sky is blue, and my brother, you know I love you.
You didn't leave it out after all.
I left it out. I was just talking about it. I wasn't using it in the literal sense there.
I understand.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Todd.
We just destroyed the opening of this show with Blackfoot, Train. One of my all-time favorite Southern rock groups, Blackfoot. I mean, how can you go wrong with opening the show on this beautiful morning with that group?
The weather's really been nice the past few weeks, hasn't it? I mean, we're getting into the dog days of summer, but it doesn't seem like it's been all that, pant. You walk outside and go, oh my God, it's so hot. It just hasn't been that. Now, other places of the country might be a different story. We podcast all over the place, but here in Michigan, it just hasn't been too bad.
I mean, the weather's been spectacular, but what the heck does that have to do with opening with Blackfoot? I mean, I'm just stoked right now. I'm jacked up. I'm ready to just turn it and burn it. And you deviated to talk about the weather. It kind of brought me off that Blackfoot train high that I've been on all morning. What happened there, Craig?
You want me to play some more of that Blackfoot right now? You want me to do that?
Play some more right now, will you? That is exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe the listeners just want us to play Southern rock right now, but that harmonica, the Les Paul with a slide, I mean, how can you go wrong with Les Paul with a slide and some harmonica? I mean, the instruments, Ricky's voice is just unbelievable. One of my all-time favorite groups.
All right, so name your three favorite Southern rock bands. Obviously, Blackfoot's in there. Who else?
How can you go wrong with Leonard Skinner? That's a given.
You got to have them.
The Marshall Tucker Band.
Okay, all right.
How about, let's see, Molly Hatchet.
Molly Hatchet's another good one, yep.
Love Molly Hatchet. How about you? Give me three.
I'm going to throw out there, well, even though it's not really rock and roll, but I'm going to throw out Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson, Southern. I mean, it's still kind of rocky. I'll go with that. Let's see. I got to go with you with Censored and 38 Special. I would say 38 Special is one of my favorite Southern rock.
Where does Humble Pie fall into that?
I don't think they're Southern. I couldn't tell you. No idea.
Okay.
Not sure.
But Blackfoot, I was digging out some old tunage of mine back in the day, and I came across Blackfoot. Wanted to just destroy it today. I hope the listeners enjoy that because, the lyrics, the instruments, it's music to me. It's just music. I love how if you see some of the concert footage on YouTube, just how they just draw out some of those instruments from the drums, the guitar to the harmonica. It's just a great, great act.
People who listen to this show just have to marvel at the musical, the range that we have between you, who's into 80s new wave and 70s Southern rock and super hard rock of today. I mean, just in general, it's all, I don't want to say it's all over the place, but it's eclectic, wide variety.
When you get to be our age, I mean, you're 88 and I'm 54.
True.
You have you have decades and decades of knowledge in regards to the music genres.
True.
We have the benefit of, growing up being born in the 60s and then, young men or young people in the early 70s and then obviously graduating from high school, class 83 myself. You were 88.
88, yeah, that's right.
88, Kalamazoo or Battle Creek?
Portage, Kalamazoo.
Well, I was way off. Okay.
No, Kalamazoo, Portage and Kalamazoo are right.
Okay. But we had the benefit of seeing all these music genres change over time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're lucky. And hey, by the way, Craig, we are a law show. I'm attorney Todd L. Levitt, and yes, I do practice law right here in the middle of the mitten from Mount Pleasant all the way to the top of the great state of Superior, a.k.a. the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And this is August. The kids are going to be coming back to college. So, couple of weeks each and every year. We talk about this on the show. Folks, make sure you have a talk with your young adults as you send them off to college for the first time away from home. Be careful of all of the pitfalls of college life, from the hardcore partying to not getting enough sleep, not eating right, and just being aware of your surroundings and that you're no longer at home.
Now, you being an attorney in a college town, for those who don't know, Mount Pleasant is the home of Central Michigan University.
Chips.
Of course, everybody in our area, we know that. But if you're listening on the podcast and you're in Brainerd, Minnesota, you have no idea where CMU or what Mount Pleasant is. College town of about 40,000 people when the students are in, and it's about 15 to 20,000 students. Do you see, is it really that? You remember when we were in school, we both went to CMU. The partying was really hard back then. I mean, people fell out of college and ended up, throwing away their lives partying in college. Is it really that way this day and age? Does it still happen, or has it kind of tapered off a bit because kids are more focused and they know more about what's going on with the world these days?
So, great question. Here's how I would answer that. So, when I got to CMU, my first semester, lived in the Towers after graduating from Berkeley High, class 83, Go Bears. When I got to CMU and lived in the Towers, I joined a fraternity my first week of college, and I'm just coming off Animal House, literally the popularity of National Lampoon's Animal House. I joined a 100-man fraternity, a Sigma Phi Epsilon, Sig Eps. I'm always a Sig Ep. And, back in those days, there was hazing going on and all kinds of crazy stuff. But beer was the big thing in 1984. Everybody, we drank, we had kegs in the dorms. I mean, we just drank beer. Now, obviously, marijuana, that great plant that is now legal across a lot of the states across this great country, including the state of Michigan, was prevalent as it was in high school. When I came to Central, I didn't see any of the hard drugs that existed that I saw in high school, such as mescaline, acid, Quaaludes back then.
Yep.
I didn't see too much of that. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but it was mostly drinking beer. Now, obviously, kids will always drink, and the partying does go on. People party hard. But the thing that I've seen over the last decade or more, kids drink. It's not different. I mean, no one's naive enough to think that, okay, I'm sending, these 18-year-old kids off to school in the drinking age in the state of Michigan. You have to be 21 and over. Kids are going to, we're not advocating anybody drink underage or break any laws, but, let's not be, fool ourselves. these young people find ways to purchase alcohol from older young folks, or their friends from home bring it up. So the drinking is always prevalent. And unfortunately, each and every year, you have these students who move away from home, and they get so overwhelmed with being in college that they drink too much, and then unfortunately, end up in the hospital, or even worse in a number of cases, they end up deceased from alcohol poisoning. And those are really sad cases. And I think, we talk about this each and every college season, Craig. You definitely want to make sure that you have a talk with your young student and make sure that they're policing each other. Make sure that if you're in an apartment, you're in a dorm room, and somebody's doing something they shouldn't, you just keep an eye on one another. We do have Good Samaritan laws in the state of Michigan and across the country, whereby if you are partying, if your student is partying with somebody, and that individual appears to be way too intoxicated or is passing out, foaming at the mouth, just something that doesn't seem normal, make sure you get that individual, call a cab, call Uber, don't drive, get that individual to the ER. Do not be concerned about getting an MIP or some kind of misdemeanor yourself. We do have those Good Samaritan laws that if you're there saving a life, you're not going to put yourself at any risk legally. Now, again, I'm not talking about in each and every case, but you got to save lives. And that's the most important thing when you send your kids off to college. You want to make sure that, they're safe.
And now, how long has that law been around? That wasn't around when we were in college, was it?
No, that was not around when we were in college, but that's been around for a number of years. In fact, I just got a case dismissed, and I think we talked about this about 3-4 weeks ago in regards to the Good Samaritan law, whereby somebody was with somebody who was overdosing on some, serious drugs, and they were charged. Case was originally, they got 3 felony counts against them. Once they took the individual to the ER and law enforcement arrived, it was determined that the person who transported the individual, who eventually died, unfortunately, but the individuals who transported this individual, they had all kinds of serious illegal substances on their person and in their vehicle, and they were subsequently charged with a number of felonies. Well, under Michigan's Good Samaritan laws, in regards to that illegal controlled substance, we were able to provide that to the prosecutor and get the case kicked. But at the same time, I sought to help this individual out and help the individual get to an inpatient program and some help from that point on. One of the things that I've seen across the board for the last 2 to 4 years is I don't see any possession of marijuana cases anymore. I used to see those every couple of weeks, somebody charged with, a possessory crime or a usage crime, or even worse, delivery and manufacturing of marijuana. I no longer see those cases. I mean, literally, they're non-existent. And in fact, in the state of Michigan, the great state of Michigan, possession of a certain amount of grams is now a civil infraction. So it's no longer a misdemeanor where you have to go to court and whatnot. And the thing that just pisses me off is, and I harp on this week in and week out, is all the pain and suffering I've seen people go through for over the decades. I've been practicing for more than 25 years, and just the pain that men and women have gone through, and the children and families, because of the prohibition against marijuana across the board. It's just been crazy. And now all of a sudden it's legal and everything's supposed to be forgiven. Well, you can't erase the pain of these individuals being incarcerated, forfeiting their homes, forfeiting their vehicles, being taken away from their kids, having to be on random drug testing for long periods of time, going through the court system, just really inhibiting their ability, to live as citizens. It's just the pain and suffering that people went through is just unbelievable. And all of a sudden, there's this 360 turn, and I don't see that anymore. I'm not saying there's not pain and suffering out there in many ways, but in regards to this marijuana enforcement, I don't see it.
And on that note, we've got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. But when we come back, we'll talk about, we've got some cannabis law stuff to talk about, and we'll find out about Todd's complaints on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back. The Todd L. Levitt Law Show thanks you for listening to our podcast. If you have a business you think people would want to hear about, the Todd L. Levitt Law Show accepts advertising. We can promote your business to a very specialized, targeted audience. Any size commitment and any budget. Email toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com for more information about sponsoring and advertising on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, just destroying it, Craig Russell and the listeners with Blackfoot Train. I'm ready to just drop the mic and go out and just shred the nard doing something, because I'm just turning it and burning it. I mean, my brain cells are just on overload right now with that, Les Paul sound and that harmonica in the background and the drums. I love listening to drums. I don't think enough people appreciate drummers out there. Drummers, if you listen to a song, try to just focus on one instrument in that song and listen to the riffs. It's just great.
And, of course, the drum, that's what keeps the time. That does a lot of important things. And over the years, drumming has become much more an integral part of music, as opposed to just that point of it, keeping the time and keeping things on tempo and everything. But, hey, you know what? Whose name is on the podcast of this show?
I believe it's my name, is it not?
That's correct. And whose name is on the radio show?
I believe it's my name. Am I correct?
That you are. So, if you ever wanted to take a couple segments or just a show and just play some of your favorite music and not do a whole lot of talking, it's your show. You pay for the time. You could do that if you wanted. I'm just saying.
I love that.
I'm just saying.
Why can't Norman Mike just let you and I just turn it and burn it for 24 hours, just like the canoe marathon? I'm telling you right now, I bet if the listeners got together and contacted, the mothership studio in Prudenville, Michigan there and said, hey, Norm, hey, Mike, let Craig and Todd just turn it and burn it for 24 hours. I think we'd have a shot at it, Craig.
To be really honest, I know Mike and Norm pretty well. They would laugh.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Let Todd and Craig run the show for a day.
Our 30 listeners, including another 5 Amish individuals. I love the Amish out there. Shout out to all the Amish. I'm telling you right now, our 30 listeners, including Sparky, they would absolutely contact the station and say, hey, we love the music they play on Todd's show. We want to hear them just have, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 12, 24 hours of just the Todd and Craig picking out the music. I'm just saying, I think I could be what you do. What is it? What do you call that individual who picks the music out at a radio station?
That's a music director.
Yeah, I think I can be a music director. I do.
Now, can the Amish actually hear and call in? I don't think do they have phones? Do the Amish have phones? Maybe they do.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I bet I would.
Hey, by the way, big shout out to one of my favorite new establishments in Clare, Michigan, Ruckles Pier. Have you ever been to Ruckles?
Yep. Great place.
Oh, man, Ruckles Pier Bar and Grill, right in the middle of Michigan, north of Mount Pleasant. When you come into town, right there over the railroad track, right on the left, is Ruckles. It's not just a bar, but I mean, it's this place. The food at Ruckles is off the charts, Craig. I mean, the menu is just outstanding. It rivals anything and anywhere I've been all over the great state of Michigan and outside the state of Michigan. It's got a great atmosphere, TVs, great drinks, a great staff, family-owned business. Is this a shameless plug for Ruckles? You better believe it, because It's a hidden gem. A lot of people know about it. It's always packed. But if you want to go somewhere and have some great food, great atmosphere, and feel a feeling of up north and just a family-run business, Ruckles Pier in Clare, Michigan. You got to check it out.
And, of course, you've probably heard of Clare. If you're not from the central Michigan area, Clare is a very famous Irish area of Michigan. They hold an Irish festival every year in Clare. It's a neat little town. It really is. About 15
Cops
miles.
and donuts.
Yeah.
You got Cops and donuts. You got Ray's Bike Shop.
Yeah.
You got Basili's Pizza. You have the famous Doherty that goes back to the age of the gangsters in the early 1900s. You got my good buddy Jim Pasha from Jim's Auto Body Shop there, Sound Productions.
Yep.
Mid-Michigan Towing. I mean, we can go on and on about the businesses up in Clare, but definitely big shout out to Ruckles. And by the way, Craig, we're a law show, so we probably should deviate and get to some law. What do you say?
Well, yeah, but one other thing I'll say, we just had our last 98.5 UPS bike night at the Evening Post in Clare, where they've got the big rooster out in front. And they've got a really cool outdoor bar area there. We just had our second.
Okay, that place, the Evening Post, is certified with that outdoor bar that kind of borders the alley right there.
It's so good.
That place is legit. It almost feels as if you're you are on vacation when you're there, but it has such a chill feeling, that place.
Yep, our 98.5 UPS bike nights kick off there every year. So great place. Clare's a great town. Yes, but I think I'm going to pick up Little John after the show and Big Hair and take him up to Clare and
visit all these establishments we're talking about. Little John is actually going to be coming back on the show here in the near future. We love Little John.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Todd.
We have an email.
Yes.
So the email is from a listener, not even from the state of Michigan, great state of Texas. We have a lot of listeners in Texas.
Okay.
So big shout out to Texas. The question is, can you talk about some of the achievements in cannabis legalization this year across the country? What's taken place? So that's the question, and that actually comes from two people who happen to be husband and wife. So I appreciate the email there. Let's just start off with the state of Illinois. That is very close to the state of Michigan. Big win in the state of Illinois. Full adult use legalization in the state of Illinois. And that passed via the state legislature. And we talked about that, a month ago? So that's huge,
about a month
Craig.
ago. Yep, that is a big deal. That was a big coup for people who are into legal cannabis and the fight in this country. Illinois is a big state to have that.
So definitely Illinois. It's not Illinois as it's spelled. It's Illinois. I think one of the other things I would mention, Craig, and we talked about this on previous shows, is, and you and I agree on this, is the progress. It's not progress enough on legalization and banking reform bills that are currently in Congress. Yeah. We could devote a whole show to the banking reform bills that are currently in Congress, because again, how the heck do you expect all of these 100,000 marijuana businesses popping up across the great country of ours in legal states and medical states, and yet the federal government can't get their crap together and reform these laws so that people can do banking and not have to deal in cash all the time? But the good news is there's plenty of banks and credit unions across the board who are accepting funds. So that's the good news. But there's definitely progress on banking reform bills in Congress, Craig.
And you think eventually somebody's going to figure out, hey, we can make a bunch of money off these people. I always harp on that it's always the money, but it is. Money makes the world go round. And eventually somebody's going to go, we can make a lot of money off this situation. Let's go ahead and change that. And then everybody's going to make a bunch of money. And that's probably another thing, the financial boom of cannabis in this country so far. Look at all the high-profile celebrities, Seth Rogen and Snoop Dogg and all these other people, sports people, athletes, business companies. They're all getting on the cannabis bandwagon. These cannabis stocks are what are keeping the stock market from completely tanking this year. There's a lot of people who are getting involved in the business of cannabis, and that's got to be a big win, because that's only going to keep it snowballing. That's not going to slow down anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, and again, I can't state this enough. It wasn't the gold miners who got rich. It was the men and women who supplied the gold miners who got rich. So keep that in mind.
Levi Strauss. He wouldn't have started.
Levi Strauss.
Yeah, he wouldn't have started his gene company if it wouldn't have been for the gold rush.
I'm going to put on my Buttonfly 1990 501 jeans and head up to Ruckles today. New Jersey, Craig. There's another thing. The passage of the long overdue medical marijuana reforms in New Jersey. They've had some setbacks because they have failed to pass adult legalization. That includes New York and Connecticut as well. It just blows my mind how you have, these progressive East Coast states like New York, New Jersey, where all our ancestors came from, at least mine did at first, and Connecticut of all places, and they can't even pass adult use, legalization. So, I mean, yeah, are we happy about medical marijuana reforms in New Jersey? Absolutely. But look at the states. People are no different state to state to state. People are pretty much the same. We all have the same needs. I just don't understand how Michigan can be a recreational state, Illinois, Colorado, we go on, and yet you have states where, like, let's take Texas, for instance, where the email came from. And I love Texas. And by the way, our prayers and thoughts go out to all the residents and the people in the great state of Texas. But Texas, for instance, their medical marijuana program, Craig, is strictly limited to cannabis oil with a THC content of 0.5% or less. I mean, it just, again, I love Texas. I've been to Texas. I've been to the Grapevine. I've been to Dallas. I've been to Arlington. I've been to the ballpark there. I love Fort Worth and Billy Bob's and all that. But, of all places, you would think Texas, which is almost like a country by itself, would allow recreational cannabis. And New Mexico, by the way, I think there's been some movement in New Mexico to allow citizens from Texas and other states that border it, as Michigan does, to come into New Mexico and purchase medical marijuana and other products. So we'll have to talk more about that in the near future.
And unfortunately, even though it is 2019 and you think some of this is past, it still is very political. Texas is a Republican state. Places that have Republican government and governors and who are very, very Republican tend to be more conservative and thus not able to pass these. Now, you look at some of the places where it has passed. Michigan, big Democratic area, especially with the unions. Illinois, same thing. Where was Barack Obama from? Illinois. California. These are places that are very liberal politically, and that's the reason why some of these states are able to get marijuana and cannabis legalized recreationally. You go to some other place in the country, again, Texas, places down south where it's much more conservative, it's a harder sell. It's not that it's not going to happen, but it's just it's going to take a little more time, I think, for some of those places.
Yeah, great point. In New Mexico, they passed House Bill 356, which was regulating recreational cannabis. But for whatever reason, the Senate Finance Committee, Craig, declined to hold a hearing during the last days of its session before they took off for the summer. And it was supposed to address a bill that would have authorized the right of adults 21 and over to possess 1 ounce of cannabis, which would have been great.
So does that would that make New Mexico?
But they're available via what's that?
Would that make New Mexico the 12th state? Illinois is 11, correct? And that would make New Mexico.
Well, the state I believe has something when I checked last week, like 70,000 medical marijuana patients, and they did add some qualifying more health conditions. But yeah, they're on the cusp of full out blown recreation, I believe.
Okay.
And the thing about Texas is I do believe they are considering. They did pass some bills that are in the House. I think it's 3703. We have some folks from Texas who emailed us so you can let us know. And they did expand the list of qualifying conditions, to include, epilepsy, seizures, disorders, multiple sclerosis, and other health issues. So that's good news, but it's not far enough. But there's a lot of movement going on, and it's only going to get better than that. You know what really blows my mind? You want to hear my complaint? So you know that song "Old Town Road"?
Yeah.
That song that's been like number one on the Billboard for like 10,000 years.
Yes. Originally, 18 weeks. One of these.
Yeah. Originally, Billy Ray Cyrus had a marijuana lyric in it. And the record company told him, no, you got to take it out.
Really?
So isn't that interesting? I mean, come on, seriously?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's across the board prohibition, even with record companies, which is kind of shocking because record companies have always been at the forefront of, pushing and allowing, at least in my experience, the First Amendment there in some of its music. And now with the internet and YouTube and how music and radio and hearing music has changed so much in the last decades, I would think that, why would they do that?
That was a great question from the couple from Texas. Thank you. Of course, if you want to email the show, toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com, toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com if you want to ask questions. We've got more to get to, but we've got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back. The Todd L. Levitt Law Show thanks you for listening to our podcast. If you have a business you think people would want to hear about, the Todd L. Levitt Law Show accepts advertising. We can promote your business to a very specialized, targeted audience. Any size commitment and any budget. Email toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com for more information about sponsoring and advertising on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show podcast.
Take me on out of this town.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting from the middle of the mitten. Coming back strong, Craig, with who, my friend?
That would be Blackfoot and Train. Great Southern hard rock song. Love it.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more with you, Craig, on that one. Hey, Craig, you're always asking me if I have any complaints.
Yes, Todd.
What's your complaint?
You know what my complaint is, Todd?
What's that, Craig?
My complaint is people who don't keep their word. I'm not a fan of that. If you ask me to do something, if somebody asks me for a favor or something, I will try my darndest to do it. And if I say I'm going to do it, I will do it. Even if it's a major inconvenience, if I agree to it, I will do it. I have a point.
You know what annoys me? What annoys me is if you have somebody who's really close to you, and I'm not saying this is the case in my situation, I'm just saying in general, and you always do something for this individual. If they need something, you're always there for that person. And then at one time when you ask that person for something minor to help you out with something, they just make an excuse. They just can't do it, or they don't feel good, or it's too early in the morning, or their back hurts, or just some kind of excuse that because you know this person. It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
That's one of my pet peeves too, because you and I are the kind of people. We go out our way to help people if we can. I'm not just saying as an attorney, but just as a friend.
Exactly. I was in the process of trying to think about. I was thinking about buying a new car. Okay. And so I get a recommendation from a buddy, a guy I should go see at a car dealership and everything. And we go out and we test drive a couple of cars. They could try and do the financing thing. It didn't work out. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go to another option. And now he's like just dodging me. He's blowing me off. He's not returning my calls. He's not returning texts. And it's like, really? I'm not asking him to, pay money for anything. I'm not asking him to do anything more than just his job. But it's like, it just bothers me when, that's your job. It's your job to try and help people, and if you can't get something for me, then just be a man and say, look, I can't do it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it and whatever. But it's bothersome. It's bothersome when somebody says he's going to try and do something for you and then they don't. I don't like that.
Here's one of my other complaints, and we rail on this each and every week. It's self-checkouts. Bring back the human aspect. Listen, it takes me 5 times longer to do a self-checkout. The thing won't scan. The screen gets locked up, or there's something that's not supposed to be in the bagging area, and whoever that voice is annoys the piss out of me. Then the individual has to come over. They have one worker standing there for like 10 self-checkouts, and they got to help you out. They got to scan their card, put in some stupid code, and then maybe if you're lucky, you'll get out of there in an hour's time. Bring back the human aspect to checking out at a grocery store. That's all I'm asking for, Craig.
Although the self-checkout doesn't ask you for your phone number or your zip code or want to know if you want to sign up for the discount card or any of that kind of crap. So there's at least that. It's
almost like taking an ACT and SAT test to get into college just to check out at a store these days. One of my biggest complaints is, and I don't know how this happens, the spider in the shower. Right now I got a spider in my shower and it's always there. I get rid of it. I actually let it go so it doesn't, karma. I don't want retaliation from all the other spiders. But I don't know the spider's end game. It just hangs out in the corner. I'm not sure if it's eating microscopic little insects that I cannot see, Craig, but I don't understand. There's a gazillion places that are much better off for a spider to hang out than in my shower overlooking my noggin when I'm putting shampoo on my head. I'm just saying, what's the spider's end game? It was there this morning. I left it there, and I'm positive it's going to be there when I get back. It's almost like Charlotte's Web when I was a kid. It's waiting to lay some babies. I'm not sure, but I want it out of my shower.
Do you really think the spider has an end game? Do you really think the spider's thinking that far in advance, short of what's happening in the next 5 seconds to the spider?
I'm not sure, but you know that spider, right? You've seen that spider.
Oh, yeah, sure. No, I know what you're talking about. See, I'm the opposite. I'll just kill it. I don't care.
Nah, you know what? I don't like mosquitoes and other insects, so I'm going to let that spider live, and I'm going to let it outside if at all possible so that I can continue to kill bugs and keep it away from my head. But the spider in the shower is my big complaint. Craig, big information here. The 420 Canna Hemp Expo is coming back to the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort on 4/18/2020. It's going to be, so it falls on a Saturday this year. It's going to be bigger, badder than ever. And the great folks at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Great property, great restaurants, gambling, hotel, just an outstanding facilities, a water park. They've invited us to come back and do it over. And folks, you're going to be stoked at the type of vendors, the number of vendors, and also the seminars in relation to hemp growing. We're going to have a ton of stuff on growing hemp, from growers to lawyers to seed people. This expo just doubled in size, and you can check it out on 420cannaexpo.com. We're slowly putting up information, and if you're a vendor, go to the website, shoot a contact, and someone will get back with you. But we're not going to just hammer it home every week up until April 18th for our 420, but we definitely want to announce it right now.
And of course, we were talking about this with Attorney Scott Roberts last week. We were talking about how there's now going to be legal use permits. And on top of it, one is happening in California this weekend. There's a brand new music festival. It's called the Outside Lands Music Fest outside of San Francisco. For the first time in the United States on American soil, there will be legal marijuana use at a music festival on site. You can do that.
That's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, because there have been marijuana use at festivals going back. You know, we have the Wheat Fest Festival right here outside of Mount Pleasant. For those of you from all over the great country, we love America. In the state of Michigan, we have the Wheatland Festival each and every year, and it's so chill. And by the way, Craig, this was something that I had no idea existed here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. But if you're a resident of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, qualifies certain individuals for the social equity program. So through the state of Michigan and through these new rules and regulations, and Chris Nanny wrote a huge, I'm not sure if he wrote a journal entry or he did a whole research on social equity programs across the country in regards to cannabis. But in Michigan's social equity program, it's available under the new MRTMA laws, Prop 1, to promote and encourage participation in the marijuana industry by people from communities that have been disproportionately impacted by marijuana prohibition and enforcement, and to positively impact those communities, Craig. Again, Michigan, as well as other states around the country, so be sure to check online. If you live in one of those communities that's listed in your state that have been disproportionately impacted by marijuana prohibition, which as far as I'm concerned as a freaking defense attorney is every single community in the state of Michigan and beyond. So it just shouldn't be these towns in Michigan that I'm looking at that have been impacted. It's everywhere I freaking practice law. But in Michigan, there's an application process. You can go onto the LARA website and just type in social equity program. And if you live in one of these communities, which includes Mount Pleasant, Michigan, you may qualify and get a license to operate a grow operation, a micro business, a processor, transportation. Each and every license that's available in Michigan, you would qualify and under the program, Albion, Michigan, Benton Harbor, Michigan, Detroit, East Lansing, Ecorse, Flint, Hamtramck, Highland Park, Inkster, Kazoo, Craig, Mount Morris, Muskegon Heights, Niles, Pontiac, River Rouge, Saginaw, Ypsilanti, not Ypsilanti. It sounded off as Ypsilanti. I know a lot of great people in Ypsilanti. And Mount Pleasant, Michigan. So Mount Pleasant, Michigan will qualify you under the social equity program. And the program is to encourage participation. The problem with that, Craig, is, okay, that's great. The state, puts this out there, but then you're still left up to your local communities to, adopt these programs and allow these licenses to take place in your communities. So on the one hand, you have the state saying, okay, if you meet the social equity application standards, you're going to move up in line possibly, and then don't hold me to that. Doesn't mean anybody's moving up anywhere. But, you have a good shot at getting one of these licenses, but you just can't fill out the application if you don't go through all the other processes that require a local municipality to adopt these ordinances. So we're going to have to talk to Scott Roberts about that next time he comes on, and or Chris Nanny, who's an expert in everything social equity.
Yeah, Canna Rev Solutions, Chris Nanny, he's the man. And it's interesting you brought up Highland Park, that was one of the 3 communities in the state of Michigan this past week that actually had elections that ended up voting down marijuana facilities in their township areas or their cities. Highland Park, Vanderbilt, which is just outside of Gaylord, and Crystal Lake, which is up by Traverse City. All 3 of them voted against.
It's a beautiful place, by the way, up in Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I know, but they voted against marijuana businesses in their communities. I saw a thing online, and this should possibly be, here I'm going to give you a little quiz before we go to break, Todd. This might be, I don't know if it's a good thing or what it is, but in the state of Colorado, name the percentage of communities that allow marijuana businesses. What would you think it would be in Colorado, where this all started? Where do you think?
Let me take a shot at it right now.
Go ahead, yeah.
23%.
23% are against it, or 23% allow it?
Allow it.
23%. You are very close. 75% of the communities in Colorado do not allow marijuana businesses. Only 20.
Wait, what did I say?
You said 23% do.
Well, no, there's room for error. Two percentage error points. I nailed it, Craig.
No,
and I didn't listen. I had nothing in front of me. I had no idea you were going to ask me that. That was just a guess.
That's exactly it, and that's the point. The point of it is in Colorado, only 25% of communities allow legal marijuana businesses, yet that state in the business of cannabis in Colorado is thriving in other places. So if Michigan ends up being similar kinds of numbers, it's still going to be a very lucrative business, and I think it's going to change some minds. But it's interesting to know that even in progressive places like Colorado, there's just not that many communities that are allowing legal marijuana businesses to happen. Even though you can possess it, you can use it, you just can't buy it. You can't purchase it, you can't buy it, you can't work in a facility that does that. But just thought that was interesting. Hey, we got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We will be right back to wrap up the show next. The Todd L. Levitt Law Show thanks you for listening to our podcast. If you have a business you think people would want to hear about, the Todd L. Levitt Law Show accepts advertising. We can promote your business to a very specialized, targeted audience. Any size commitment and any budget. Email toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com for more information about sponsoring and advertising on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting from the middle of the mitten in a beautiful green nutrient field with my good friend Craig Russell, the Muscle, coming back strong. We don't need to say it. Some classic Southern rock with Blackfoot, Train, Craig. I'm going to be playing that in my noggin all day today. By the way, big shout out to Big Hair. I wish him all the best and a speedy recovery.
Oh, no.
He has poison ivy on probably 75% of his body.
Oh, wow.
And the reason being is because he goes out into the bush and weed whacks and does things on the farm and doesn't wear socks and doesn't put pants on, doesn't listen to me, and so he got poison ivy. He did nothing about it for 4 days. And he's hurting right now, and I want nothing to do with Big here. We're supposed to go shred a single track right now. They just opened up a new loop at DTE. It's not happening. So, sorry, Big Hair. You need to get some Benadryl and some steroids in you. I'm not getting around any of that poison ivy. I had to loan him a pair of socks. We went biking last week, Craig. He shows up at DTE. We met up with the commander, Big Daddy, and all the families, and he had no socks, and I had an extra pair of Columbia socks. I had to loan it to him. I just gave it to him. I'm not taking back anything I loaned to anybody, especially a pair of socks.
To Mr. Poison Ivy guy. I thought you were going to seriously say he did something, like hurt himself or something like that. I didn't realize it was going to be Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy's bad enough.
Jeez, Big Hair.
And then he does nothing about it for 4 freaking days. Come on, seriously.
Drives around his Prius.
Drives around. Hey, another thing I want to mention, we talked about earlier in the show about in the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks, and then some, all the students, just pouring back into these college towns.
Right.
It's living in a college town and seeing how it empties out in the summer and how what happens to the economy. When those students come back to a college town, I'm thrilled for all the mom and pop businesses and all the businesses that benefit from the revenue, especially the mom and pop businesses. There's nothing better than going into a business that's owned by a family, whether it's a diner or a hardware store. Mitchell's Deli is one of my favorite places in Mount Pleasant and Shepherd. Check out Mitchell's. Ruckles, we talked about Ruckles. There's so many great mom and pop places. You definitely, want to check these places out.
And it's really helpful when it comes to be this time of year when, maybe summer's been a little lean. I mean, obviously, Michigan is a big tourist area, lots of tourist areas all around the country. But then all of a sudden you have an influx of 20,000 more paying customers coming back into your area, buying your food, shopping at your store, getting your gas, et cetera, et cetera. It only helps the economy. It only makes things better off, too. Plus, there's going to be a lot of kids coming back in within the next 2 weeks, isn't it? When does Central come back? 26th? Something like that?
It comes back at the end of the month. And I happen to be an attorney who represents a lot of Central students. And students from State, Northwood, Ferris. Let's not overlook Ferris to the west of Big Rapids. Ferris is a great college. They got great programs. The Bulldogs. I love Ferris State over there in Mecosta County. Big shout out to everybody at the Mecosta County Court. They do just a great job, from the judge to the court administrator, probation, their sobriety court program, recovery court, circuit court. Mecosta does a great job. Big shout out to everybody over Mecosta and everyone over that way. So I was actually in Mecosta, Osceola, did some work up in Cadillac recently. I've been in Clear County quite a bit, and Gratiot as well. So I just don't hang out in the middle of the mitten. I do restore a ton of license. I'm a driver's license restoration guru, but I'm also a trial attorney, and I worked in Detroit for 12 years, Craig, doing trials. So I don't take every case, but I take cases where I can make a difference.
And on top of it, we were talking earlier about making sure you talk to your college-age students when they're getting ready to go away to college for the first time. Here you go. Here's your opportunity. If you've got students, or even if let's say you've got grandkids who are going back to college, put this number in your phone and give it to them as well. 989-772-6000. Anything happens, especially that first weekend of school, maybe they end up getting pulled over, maybe something happens, 989-772-6000. You want Todd Levitt on your side. He will help you. And if you can't, if your young adult doesn't have the number, make sure you have it saved in your phone so you can text it to him. Then give Todd a call, and Todd can help you out, especially this time of year. You see an influx of new students and also new problems in college towns around Michigan. So 989-772-6000, Levitt Law.
Also, we mentioned earlier in the show, gave a sympathy shout out to the great state of Texas and all the, people who are going through what they're going through down there. And then we border the great state of Ohio. Yep. We give Ohio a hard time because we're such big, huge Michigan Wolverine fans against Ohio State, and I think this is our year. But the great state of Ohio, and they're going through a lot as well. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all those folks as well.
It's true. It's we could do 10 shows in a row about all of that kind of stuff, but we're probably better off just saying we hope everyone the towns in the area, but especially El Paso. I have a couple of friends who work in radio in El Paso, and that whole community has come together. Did you see that right after everything happened? Over 100 people stood in line for hours to donate blood because they were told that they needed blood in the hospitals to take care of the victims, and that's how community. That's a community right there, and I think we've got a lot of close knit communities like that in Michigan. I know they do in Ohio. We know they do in Texas. So, but like I said, we just hope everybody we start to move on from that, and hopefully they can recover and heal from those tragedies.
Couldn't have said it better, Craig. Couldn't have said it better, my friend. Hey, what a great show we had today.
Oh, no kidding.
And,
no kidding.
Great music, great information. We are a law show. We're not a political show. We're not Republican or Democrats. We're Americans. And all we try to do here, we love the Constitution. We just try to inform the public as to what the laws are. I mean, we're obviously heavily concentrating on cannabis because it's so prevalent in the state of Michigan and around the country right now, and we got to keep up with the changing and moving laws out there. But in weeks to come, Attorney John Marco is scheduled to come back on the show, so we're looking forward to having Attorney John Marco on. Matt Green from Alabama is coming back on. Scott Roberts we hope to have back on. Little John's due for an appearance. My good buddy Frank Bailey, Frank's Old Town Boxing. We love Frank Bailey.
And of course,
Big shout out to Steve Lato. Steve Lato just took a trip down to Tittabawassee on YouTube. You got to check it. Lato's always welcome. Chris Nanny. And big shout out to my buddy Todd Wakely.
We got to get
shout out to the Wakely family. Vinny Cate,
We got to get Vinny Cate back on before he goes into the Marines or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, Vinny Cate's supposed to be going to the Marines. We're so proud of him, and we support all our veterans and whatnot, of course. And make sure you keep all the men and women in blue safe. And big shout out to all those individuals and the first responders out there. That's correct. That's all I have for the week, man. I'm ready to just go turn it and burn it with some Southern rock, shred the gnar, hit some single tracks, stay on the bike, and put the rubber down to the single track. Keep the rubber to the ground, man. That's what I say on a single track. Keep the rubber to the ground.
For once, you're ready to go, and the show's over. We got to go.
I'm ready to go. Put the rubber to the single track and shred the gnar, baby. Okay, we got to go. I'm not just a litigator. I'm an advocator. Take us out, Craig, with some harmonica on Blackfoot. Train, baby. See you next week.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Mallywell Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, Clear Vision Windows, Siding, Roofing, and Attic Installation of Midland, Mackinac Properties and Northern Michigan Vacation Rentals, buying, selling, and renting properties in the Straits of Mackinac region since 1998, Tim's Collision Plus in Roscommon, Harrison Power Sports, Central Michigan's fastest growing full-line Arctic Cat dealer, and Dr. Robert Townsend and Denali Healthcare for your alternative healthcare needs.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.